So talk about what is happening right now in Yemen, how devastating the situation is.
It's hard to describe in words how devastating it is, to be totally frank. So what you've got is what the UN describes as the world's largest humanitarian crisis, and that means thousands upon thousands of cases of cholera, famine for millions across the country, and on top of that, you've got parties at war who've been fighting for now more than 2.5 years, who seem to have no regard for the ways in which that war is affecting the civilian population. Human Rights Watch has documented over 80 apparently unlawful coalition attacks in Yemen that have hit schools, markets, homes, hospitals. Last Sunday, we heard new reports about them hitting a market, killing around 20 people. And this is what we've seen is these attacks continuing, and there being very little response in terms of the international community pushing for either the attacks to stop or accountability for the attacks that have already occurred.
I want to turn to the UN Emergency Relief Coordinator, Stephen O'Brien, addressing the UN Security Council late last month.
Yemen now has the ignominy of being the world's largest food security crisis, with more than 17 million people who are food insecure, 6.8 million of whom are one step away from famine. Crisis is not coming. It is not even looming. It is here today, on our watch, and ordinary people are paying the price. It is important to bear in mind that malnutrition and cholera are interconnected. Weakened and hungry people are more likely to contract cholera and less able to survive it. According to estimates, 150,000 cases are projected for the next 6 months, in addition to the broadly 60,000 current suspected cases since last April, with 500 associated deaths. The scale of this latest outbreak is, as well as being depressingly predictable, a direct consequence of the conflict. And had the parties to the conflict cared, the outbreak was avoidable.
This is UN Emergency Relief Coordinator Stephen O'Brien addressing the UN Security Council. I want to ask you, Christine Beckerle, about Human Rights Watch call for an arms embargo on Yemen.
So we've been calling for an arms embargo on Saudi Arabia in particular, given the sort of strength of the evidence that has mounted against Saudi Arabia in particular as the leader of the coalition in terms of carrying out war crimes and violations of the laws of war in Yemen. Others have echoed that call, Amnesty, many other NGOs. And what's amazing is just recently, 47 senators in the U.S. tried to block an arms sale to Saudi Arabia. So you're seeing governments across the globe, basically, because in the U.K., arms sales also are subject to judicial review. The Netherlands has imposed a presumption of denial on arms sales to Saudi Arabia. So you're seeing countries really take steps. But it's not enough, because in the end, the U.S. arms sale is going forward. In the end, Donald Trump went to Riyadh and said, here's $110 billion in arms. In the end, the U.S. is still providing significant support to the coalition that is carrying out these attacks in Yemen, and as we just heard in terms of the humanitarian crisis, also blocking, impeding, and delaying the flow of aid into a country that, again, is facing famine and cholera.
And the major winners here, since Trump talks about winners and losers, the weapons manufacturers here in the United States?
Basically, right? So it's one of those things where you're seeing, in a very gross way, the prioritization of profit over civilian lives, and it's sort of, at what point do you sort of take the step and say, it's not worth it to sell another weapons deal, when it not only means that, first, the message you're sending to Yemeni civilians is that you don't care, and second, that what you're saying to U.S. officials who are involved in these deals, that don't worry, just take the risk of potential legal liability and move forward and things will be fine. And I think that that's quite problematic, again, because this isn't a new war. These allegations aren't hidden or secret. Nothing's unknown. So the U.S. and other arms manufacturers and arms sellers can't say they don't know. So the question is, okay, now you know. When are you actually going to take the action you need to take?